We investigated fraud at the precinct level in conventions all over South Houston. In particular, I worked on Senate District 6, 11, 13, and 17. But I worked with the Hickeys on investigating fraud at the precinct levels in all of the precincts. Truthfully speaking, ours was like a bulk of evidence, and I'll go into that just real briefly, and they will provide you with evidence. But quoting from the rules of the Texas Democratic Party, in order to participate in the precinct, a person to participate in the precinct convention must reside in that precinct, and they must have voted in the Democratic primary that day in order to participate. At the precinct level, the chair calls for the qualified members to sign in on this sign-in sheet. It asks for their name, address, email address, voter certificate registration, phone number, and other questions. So to be legal, they must go through those steps, having voted that day and showing up at the precinct in which they live, filling out this form and signing it in their signature. According to the New York Times, Monday, July 21st, 2008, the votes for Hillary by popular vote in Texas were 1,459,000. The votes for Obama were 1,358,000. So Hillary obtained 51% of the votes in Texas. The popular vote, Obama only obtained 47.4%. So as a scientist and as a mathematician, I was curious as the results came in from the precincts, and the precinct caucuses did not reflect those numbers. So I could see something was wrong because the precinct caucuses did not reflect the popular vote. Hillary Clinton campaign paid to have copies of every one of the sign-in sheets. These arrived in box after box after box. It would fill a normal size room. So what all of us did is we laboriously went through each of the sign-in sheets to see if they were properly filled out. You put in either the person's name, their address, or their certificate number, and it will give all the information to see if they're truly registered in the precinct. So we went through these sign-in sheets, and many Obama people either came to the wrong precinct, they did not sign in properly, they did not show ID, or they had not voted that day. When you come to the precincts, the number of delegates selected is by a mathematical formula, and how it boils down is the one who gets the most people there gets the most delegates. That's the bottom line. Right. And how they determine the delegates is on these sign-in sheets. So when so many people were registered illegally for Obama, they obtained a lion's portion of the delegates, and then it percolated up. So they had illegal delegates at the precinct level, who then went on to the Senate district level, who went on to the state level. And that's how they control the delegate count. And they may win Texas through control of these precinct sign-in sheets where people signed in illegally. I personally went over, I cannot tell you how many sheets vetting the people on there. I personally did it.
How many days did it take you?
I worked from 8 in the evening until 4 in the morning for 2 weeks. Because see, we only had, caucuses were held on March 4th, and then the Senate district meetings were on March 29th. So we only had, and it took us a few days to get the copies. So essentially we only had 2 weeks to go. So I think the strategy was to bring in a huge number of people, overwhelm the system, and in the chaos that ensued, they could steal the election.
And I came to Indiana early afternoon, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And in coming off the expressway, I was just sort of riding through the communities to sort of get a feel for what was going on. I had not gone to the office yet. And I was driving down a street, and it was off of Grant Street, but I can't remember where. There were some guys that had put up lawn chairs in front of the door on the walkway going into the, it was some kind of community center or something. And there was, so I got out, I stopped and parked my car, got out of the car, and there was this lady, probably about 80 years old, who was sort of walking slowly up the street. And as she was approaching approaching the entranceway to go into the building, one of the young men said to her, "If you're not voting for Obama, go home, because you're not voting here today." And she turned and walked away. The pain that I felt because of the people who have fought for African Americans to have the right to vote. And this fight has been a battle that has gone on for many, many, many years. And to see two African American young men denied the right under a veiled threat of violence to a woman who was the elder, a woman who looked to be around 80 years old, and not allowing her the opportunity to vote, I found appalling.
This man said, "You voted." I said,
For Obama?
"What?"
Yeah.
Yeah, for Obama. Bent into my face. Like, what are you doing in my face?
Did it
Telling
scare
me
you?
that, yes. Telling me I had voted, that I had done all this and that. And I said, "No, I didn't." He said, "You had your hand up." And I said, "No, I didn't. But I talked with my hands. And I wasn't talking to y'all. I had turned to her."
And
But
when he got
anyway, so he was right there in my face. It was really bad.
when he got real challenging and got where his hand was coming up towards her, I reached up and grabbed his arm and pulled
That's
it down.
right.
I said, "She is disabled. Back off."
And they didn't want to listen. They booed me, the whole 3,000 people at the convention. They booed me. And I got death threats because my address was in the video from Obama supporters and people calling me whore and skank.
Well, we learned from a lady in Texas who had read the 500-page DNC convention rules document that there was a way to get her name into nomination if we got 300 of her delegates to sign a petition.
Let's take a look at one of the petitions here.
Okay.
You can tell me what's constructed on it. I mean, you'll see, what is the first part about?
Okay, the first part about it is it's basically a petition in support of the floor nomination of Hillary Rodham Clinton for the President of the United States. And so each person, depending on what state they came from, they wrote down their congressional district, they signed it, and on this piece down here, this is something that I had devised with a woman that was a notary. So they had to take this petition, print out 2 of them, sign both of them, take it to a notary. And if you look at all of these petitions, each person had a different stamped notary from wherever they were from.
So you couldn't disqualify it based upon some discrepancy in the signature, is that?
That is correct. And I also made them sign 2 of them, send one to a P.O. box, and in case something happened in the P.O. box, I had them bring it individually, the other one, to the convention, so that there was no way the DNC or the Obama campaign and his lawyers could knock my signatures off this petition. To submit the petition, we had to have a superdelegate sign another piece of paper that my lawyer had devised. And they were the ones who would actually nominate Hillary's name officially to the convention floor. And we had been talking to, at the time, the Congresswoman from Ohio, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, who was an African-American lady who had campaigned for Hillary from the beginning to the end, and she never wavered in her support, even though she had major threats from the Obama campaign and through the Black community that she needed to switch her support.
And so what happened then?
Well, unfortunately, Stephanie Tubbs Jones died of a supposed brain aneurysm 2 weeks before the convention.
So what did you do in response?
We had been contacting state party chairs in every state, and the state party chair is basically head of the delegation that goes into the convention. And not one state party chair got back to us except Bill Gwatney, who was the state party chair of Arkansas. And he had said that he was going to support our petition, he was going to have the delegation sign it, all of them, and that they were going to go into Arkansas, which is which was one of the first letters of the roll call to be called, and they were going to all vote for Hillary on the first ballot.
And what happened?
He was murdered the next day.
And what happened to the perpetrator of that crime?
He was killed right after by the Arkansas state troopers.
So it sounds like you're saying that you're accusing that the Obama people would go to murder to advance their goals.
Well, we found it quite a coincidence that Bill Gwatney was murdered the day after we talked to him, after he supported our petition, and 2 days later, Stephanie Tubbs Jones was found dead of a brain aneurysm.
When did the first issues of Obama's eligibility come up?
Oh, immediately. We were getting hit with so many things about Obama. I mean, this is when, Ayers and Khalidi and all that, and then all of a sudden, oh, he's not eligible to be president. The Clintons started it. It started, and everybody who has called this a conspiracy from the Republicans or the Tea Party, they need to know who started it. The Democrats. It was Hillary and Bill, and it percolated up from there. Bill Clinton would make references to it. He would, he would say it. He would go on camera and jokingly make comments about, is Obama qualified to be president? Well, if he's 35 and a wink, wink, United States citizen, I guess he's qualified.
So just to be clear, you're saying that the Clintons may know that we're not hiding that their concerns that Obama was not eligible. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did the Clintons stop attacking Obama on eligibility?
In the world that we were in with her superdelegates and delegates, it just was, he's not legit. That's the end of it, period, end of story. It wasn't up for discussion. We were always told that Bill was going to tell the truth. Just wait, Bill's going to tell everybody. Bill's going to tell the truth. Bill Gwatney was killed.
Who was he?
Chairman of the Arkansas Democratic Party and a Hillary superdelegate.
And what relationship did he have to Bill and Hillary?
From what I heard, Bill's best friend.
And what happened to him?
He was sitting in his office and someone came in and shot him, killed him, ran out, and then the perp got killed and there was no motive. The person was killed, there was never a motive, and I was told that was, shut up, Bill, or you're next.
Shut up about what?
Obama's birth certificate.
And were there any further threats that you heard made against the Clintons?
Well, then this woman told me that Bill, who probably doesn't take threats too lightly or too seriously, was going to do it anyway. And then they went in and said, okay, it's your daughter now that we'll go after. And then Bill never said anything.
And the threat was in relationship to if the Clintons continued discussing Obama's eligibility and birth certificate?
Yes.